I mean, I'm really excited.
1000%. Absolutely. It's going to be phenomenal, man. Pulsechain is going to do very well. And, the proof is in the pudding when they can take a look at the open source code and see what's happening behind the scenes and how legitimate the network is and how many validators are running and how many users there are right off the bat. It's going to be very interesting to watch it for sure. But I'm just looking forward to the 2-3 days of eating popcorn, watching people wreck themselves once PulseX goes live. I don't mean that like I hope people wreck themselves. It's going to be interesting to see the volatility.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
You know they will.
Yeah, I know they will, no matter what we tell them. But
He's literally giving people opportunity to get the free coins.
well, that's what he's always told everybody. He's going to give a short window, not going to give an exact time or day, so people can't game anything. But there's your window.
I'm ready for Richard to come back on YouTube Live. That'd be a nice treat. I'm excited. I'm predicting that he'll go live on YouTube shortly after Mainnet.
Light up those candles and celebrate.
It's gonna be nuts. I can't wait. I'm just excited. I've been waiting for this forever. I retired last year thinking it was fucking launch. I did. Thank God. Like, we have a means for me to retire. I'm just I'm just excited. Not just for myself, but for a lot of people in the community that I know throwing everything they have into this. And for this to happen, I think it's going to just make so many things better in the community and not so crazy. So I'm really looking forward to the more chill vibe that's going to happen when it launches. So
I think a lot of haters,
I'm excited for that.
For sure, will definitely go away when Pulsechain launches.
Yeah, that too.
Richard's the master marketer, man. He's got a pivot.
Richard is definitely one of the master marketers.
One thing I'm just a little confused on is the AMM bot.
Yeah, so the AMM is just it's just software essentially that fixes the ratios of the harvested fork liquidity and then injects it into PulseX. So the Ethereum fork that we're doing, when we do that, it's going to take and it's going to fork all the ERC20 tokens, all the things that are in all the dexes, Uniswap V1, Uniswap V2, V3, OX, all that. And we're inflating the Pulsechain token supply by over 1 million X. So once we fork, basically the bot goes in and buys out of all those AMMs, buys all of those forked over PRC20 tokens, and then mints a bunch of Pulse, and then it'll be injecting it into PulseX at the ratio, the same ratio, not the same token supply, but the same ratio that you see on Ethereum. So the ratios will be the same between the new PRC20 and Pulse with a much more inflated token supply. The reason why we're inflating the token supply is only one, and that's basically to have cheap fees on Pulsechain infinitum. So it's fixing, it's called an AMM fixer box because it's fixing the ratios on Pulsechain.
So it doesn't break the ratio between the Ethereum and Pulsechain.
If you have 1 hex in Uniswap to 1 ETH, you're going to be looking at 1 hex to 1 million Pulse.
Okay.
So it buys everything up, fixes the ratios so that you can account for the integer increase in Pulse, but keeps the ratios between the ETH and the Pulse chains in terms of the ratios in the pools.
Thank you.
Yeah, the reason why we're inflating the token supply is so that Pulsechain is just very inexpensive to run transactions on forever. Pulse is going to be very inexpensive to run transactions forever because of this. Ethereum essentially would have to do the same thing to make it work, or find some high-end way of sharding or something, which is way off, and it would still be not as efficient because you're relying on other things to make transactions cheaper than just having kind of a base layer that does it automatically. What Richard's done with Pulsechain is just a far better solution.
I probably have a bit more of PulseX than I do Sacrafice.
PulseX is dope.
Speaking of testnet, we got quite a few projects missing. The way Richard Hart's speaking, they better get their shit together. I mean, I know testnet's always going to be around, but you think they would want to launch at the same time when Mainnet launches?
I would say Ethereum launched with pretty much nothing, and your blockchain's the base layer. You're not going to have 40,000 things to do when you launch day one, which is great. You don't need to focus on all that anyways. And projects, which that's what they are, they're projects, and their websites, their dApps, they're going to go through iterations, and they don't need a test net, but there still is going to be one. So they could keep using that test net if they want, or they can use Ethereum test net. It doesn't really matter. It's all EVM, so whatever they've done up until now is good. They could just do, rolling out website like PulseX. If we have everything we can do or not, we know we're not going to be able to do everything to begin with anyways, like single side staking and stuff like that's not going to be like available day one. So it's not like we need everything up and running. It's a website. It's going to keep updating. So coming from both angles, you've got Hex is locked, immutable, never changes, and is perfect pretty much. And then you have Pulsechain and other projects which are going to be upgradable, changeable, editing, anything we want could be added environment, which is wonderful. It's a great playground, but it's hard for a lot of these people. And I think they also attribute a long testnet to trying to, quote unquote, make a blockchain perfect, which is pretty much laughable because all of this, isn't perfect for the most part, right? As far as layer one goes, there are no perfect layer ones. And since we're forking Ethereum and they've been running this thing since 2020, that kind of serves as a proof of viability of the chain, right? It does work.
All I want to know is when single side staking PLSX, because I just want to stake and sit back and enjoy the show.
2 months.
Yeah.
We probably have to vote first, and we need projects that are going to give free coins for it. So maybe 2 months. Who knows?
And some projects can't actually deploy on testnet yet, like fiat, because there's no stable coin for them to work with. And further to that, Richard doesn't have Pulse ramp up. Richard doesn't have Hex up natively on Pulsechain v3.
And maybe he doesn't have Pulse ramp up on purpose because when Mainnet goes live, there's not going to be a ramp for the first few days. So maybe we're a lot closer than people think, and that was intentional. Sorry.
But we've had testnet for a few days, so wouldn't you think you would try and imitate what's going to happen on mainnet if it's going to be a few days? My point is, when you're asking why aren't these dApps from other projects up, there's also dApps that aren't up from Richard himself.
I got some complaints. Oh, V2B had more features. Some of the Koreans were telling me that. And I was like, that means it's already been tested. And since it's an EVM, that means all of it works already. So don't worry. They already wrote the code for that, which means it's done.
And it seems like it's not as far off as people think.
Bro, here's the bottom line, right? He's playing like 30 different games. I've been saying this all along. He's been playing chess while everybody else has been playing checkers. Maybe it's launching soon. Maybe it's not launching soon. The matter of the fact is that Richard is on top of this. He's ahead of the game. He's not going to give nobody no inkling of a opportunity or advantage of fucking this up for him. He's ahead of the game, and we just need to be ready, and it comes when it comes. But we don't know because he's not gonna allow anybody else to know that's not with the game and is trying to ruin the game before it even starts. He's not gonna give them an advantage neither, right? So just know that, right?
Yeah, I like what he's doing about not releasing a warning of when we go live, because you got so many pump and dumpers out there trying to fucking game the system. Yeah.
No, they just did it with Hex. I mean, we just saw them. They pump Hex and they went up to 13 cents, and then as soon as V2 hits, they drop Hex into 7 cents. Which means, to be honest, if you want to catch people off guard, you would launch after they dump, so then they don't get their Hex copy.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, because I keep saying that the amount of people from other chains that have actually sacrificed for PulseX is amazing. Like for Pulsechain, not many of the other people in other chains knew, so that's like mainly you hexagons. So for me, PulseX has got a great chance of dumping, because I know a load of BSC people that are in PulseX sacrifice, and if you know anything about the BSC community, they're the paper hand elites. They're like at the top of that game. If people think like they're gonna hold past 10x, they're gonna hold past 25x, they're gonna hold past 50x, you're mad. Like, so I see once we get to 100x, I see it like flying properly from there, because you'll get all these people out, because a lot of these other chains are not used to any massive gains like that.
So the people that sacrificed are going to get, most likely they're going to get Pulsechain token in. Yep. So the value of Pulsechain will be determined by the amount sacrificed, most likely.
It launches at zero.
Yeah,
it launches at zero, so no value. And then when there is a breach, and then when somebody, we don't know who, puts some real money on one side of the pool, then everything magically gets a value.
It's going to be a big game of chicken in the beginning. But yeah, but it's going to be like who's going to sell for what and who's going to want to buy it for what. Once that starts, then, price exploration will begin, and then eventually we'll get a value for everything, not just Pulse and PulseX. Everything, even Hex, is not going to be the same value that it is on Ethereum. It's never been done.
For the first couple of days, weeks, months, if you don't do anything at all, if you don't do nothing, then you'll be better off, because so many people are going to get wrecked just trying to, be a smart asses, trading. Better don't do anything. Don't do anything at all for at least the first 2 days, then see how things go.
I'm not touching shit. I'm holding this shit for long term.
Yeah, if you're holding long term, I don't play those games where I'm trying to find a bottom. You know what? DCA, buy it, and if it tanks even further, it's going to come up again. Every L1 that's launched has freaking tanked in the beginning and then gone on to make pretty big highs.
What is the advantage of creating Pulsechain?
Low fees. So do you use Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you swap tokens, do you use Uniswap or do you use exchanges?
Yeah, I use DEX, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Or not just Uniswap, sorry, yeah, a DEX. If you're using a DEX, then you know very well, like the rest of us in this chat, that the fees are just insane. And the fees on Pulsechain, we're on testnet v3 right now. I'm paying fractions of a penny per transaction. So that's the big advantage. You're getting copies of all that shit you have on Ethereum, and you can fucking swap that shit all day for a fraction of a fucking penny. Very cheap.
So when Pulsechain launches, PulseX launches too, right?
Yes, PulseX would be the DEX. It's going to be up and running with Mainnet, and there will be a bridge eventually. It'll come a few days, but everybody can tell you, you're going to get a copy of everything you have on Ethereum, and at the same time, you can swap those things around. Now you're not paying $12, for each transaction, or to, send one bag to another wallet, all that crap, it's going to be a lot cheaper, and that's a big advantage. Yes, and it's proof of stake, not proof of work. So, I mean, there's more than just those few things we discussed, but there's a lot of advantages to it.
Pulsechain could be a potential, competitor with Ethereum, or?
Well, it is. I mean, the idea was to help lighten the load of Ethereum. I mean, that's kind of a selling pitch in my opinion. I mean, if more users start using Pulsechain from the Ethereum community because they're getting a copy of everything, then it will lighten the load of Ethereum, and it would actually improve Ethereum. So it's not like they're trying to launch Pulsechain to compete directly with Ethereum or beat Ethereum, because let's be honest, all these layer ones have tried. But at the same time, you have this huge community, this Hexkins, this huge community that are in Hex that are tired of paying $600 to end a fucking stake after 2 years, and this is gonna help them out. And at the same time, anybody else that's on the Ethereum network that wants to try it out, they might actually like it and they might come on board. So it's a win-win.
Interesting.